We're going to be demonstrating some of the different tops we turn. Because we do have the fair coming up, and when we volunteer out at the fair, this is what we turn mostly out there to hand out. Also, we ask for people to turn tops ahead of time, so we can have a stockpile to hand out, because we hand out a few of them.
Yeah. During the 2 weeks of the fair, we'll probably go through 1,000 tops, or make 1,000 tops out there. So it's.
And then, so they're going to do that demonstrations, and after that, we do have a quick board meeting. We got to get our directors, our board for the next year to vote on that, and then talk about a few things, and that's it. Right.
Okay. Like I said, I guess the name of this demonstration is Tops, Tops, and More Tops. Topsy-turvy, yeah, we could do it that way too, or tippy top or something like that. You know, when we're out at the fair, it's a very simple top that we turn, because the kids are usually lined up about 8 deep to pick the things. They love them. We've got several families out there that come every year to the fair, and we give the kids a top, and they go home and they actually mark the date, the year that's on there, and they've got them going back to 2000, whenever we started, 18, 19, 20. And it's just it's a quick down and dirty. We'll do a little demo on that, but it spins. The big thing with the kids, gotta spin. If it spins, they love it. So, you can.
How many tops do you think you've made?
Huh?
How many tops do you think?
Since the fair, I'm probably pushing 5,000 or 6,000 by now, and Brian's probably gotten about twice that many, because he can turn them faster than I do. Yep. Again, if you want to do a little more fancy, this is kind of a little container or a little box with a top on it. You flip it over, and it spins on the flat on the bottom there, which is kind of neat. Kind of an adult version of the basic spin top. And that thing will turn for the next 30 seconds if I let it go that long. Again, this was another one for a top, but I didn't get the bottom made, or I forget what happened to the bottom of it. This is kind of a neat takeoff on it. This is something that Ellie Evasera was teaching at the class I went and took from him back in May of this year, or June. And the actual thing, it spins on the cup, and if I've done it right, it should catch itself when it goes over the side here. And it didn't do it that time. Let's see if I can get it to do it about 50% of the time, and the rest of the time it just does what it did that first time there. There it goes. So that's kind of neat. And you can also do these like I demonstrated back a couple months ago with that offset turning axis there, so it's kind of neat. Again, this was kind of interesting. This is one that Brian made, and I think it was last year at the fair when we were out there. This woman came up and she had a old, I don't know if it was a tobacco tin or whatever it was, but it was a little tin, and you could tell it was probably about turn of the 20th century, going back to about 1900. And in it, there must have been about a half a dozen of these little teeny tiny tops like this. And if I can do it here without throwing it across the room, there it goes. And so it's kind of a neat little project. And Brian got this thing, and he spent the rest of the day trying to duplicate the one top that was in the tin. Meanwhile, we've got kids 4,000 miles deep, and he's fixated on this thing. And I finally had to tell him, Brian, we need some more, you need to quit on that, and let's get some of these kids done. Because there's no way. And then you've got the infamous tippy top. And I'm going to walk over here because I need something bigger to turn it on. But and you've got to spin it pretty forcefully, it'll actually flip up on the stem and turn that way, which is kind of a neat. The kids love them. If you have, any of these in the bowl out there that we're passing them out from, if there's one of these in there, it's the first one to go. I know I had a bag last year at Christmas that had a half a dozen of them, and I gave them to my, well, he was 6 years old then, he's now 7, and he's proud to announce that, grandson. He went in his bedroom, and for the next hour and a half, he was transfixed in there trying to find, I told him, pick out the one you want and take it home. And he was in there, which one does the best? For an hour and a half. Good way to keep, if you're doing a party and you've got kids, good way to get them off, keep them entertained, and get them out of your hair for a while. But so anyway, that's the kind of the difference thing. What you got to do, this thing is, you've got to follow certain rules to make one of these things. Number one, this curve here has got to come back down. If you do it where it just around here and comes up and comes straight, it's not going to flip. It's not going to turn. The stem here has got to be a little bit shorter than the thickness or the diameter of the ball down here. You need to have a little bit of weight in the bottom of it. And the big thing that you've got to do is this backside has got to be almost perfectly round. If it's got some flats, or if it's especially got a point on it, it'll spin on that point, on that high point, and will never do the flip, the turn. So anyway, that's just some ideas. We've been playing with them out at the fair, and Brian and I played with this thing trying to get one that would actually work. And we actually discovered that you've got to have in the cup here, that has got to be perfectly flat. If it starts off the edge and kind of has a little bit of a slant towards the middle, it'll turn in the middle because it's going downhill, and it will never come up to the side and catch itself. It's just going to lay over. So either perfectly flat or a little bit of a dome that way will help greatly in doing it. All right. So let me get these put away. And just some ideas. I'm sure people have other ideas on tops, and you can make them all different sizes. And
there is a book with 50 spin tops on it. The Broward Club has it in their library.
oh, okay.
They've got all kinds of ones. Ones that look like little dancers, that arms are on eye hook and hang down, where you spin them.
Yeah, I know a lot of people do them with the string, where you pull the string and it slides off. And there's all sorts of things you can do with them if you get into them.
Japan, they make great big ones with a rope that weighs like a pound.
Tools are fairly simple. I start with a cube that's pretty much a cube. This is 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 by, I think, 2 inches. So it may be, or 1 3/4. I'm sorry if I said 1 1/4. 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 by 2. I use just a peel and cut with a skew. Actually had to replace my old skew. I think I've had this one for 15 years, and I was astounded when I got the new one. The difference in I think it had 15 years worth of good use. So if you don't learn anything other with a skew other than to do this cut, it's just a simple basic peeling cut. I'm gonna lay that there for right now. And just double check that I've got this thing in here good and tight. And peeling cut is nothing more than starting the lathe up. And And it's turning roughly about 1400 RPM now for the guys that need to know that. Start with the blade down, and all you're going to do is just lift it up. You don't want to take a big chunk, especially with a little skew like this, so it'll just and then I'll make a cut this way, just to, you know, kind of a planing cut with the skew. You can do this with a spindle gouge, you could do it with a roughing gouge. Wish we had a light here, but oops, not quite round, so let me make one more pass.
The objective there is to have no flats.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, no flats. So we'll just, I'm so close I don't need to take a whole heck of a lot off. Yep, that's a little better. Okay, and that's got it good and round. And then that's all you do there. To actually make the point, I use this little bowl gouge. This was a Doug Thompson. It actually is a 4-piece set that you can buy from Doug with the handle, and you get a bowl gouge and a little spindle gouge. And I think it's just a flat piece of steel that you can make anything you want to out of it. But you know, that's what I use. I like this over the spindle gouge because it's a little bit less flexible. The spindle gouge, sometimes if you're making bigger, heavier cuts, will tend to flex on you. This thing is a lot less liable to do that. And I'm just going to start here. Whatever direction the end of the tool here points is the direction the cut's going to make. I've got people that you'll tell them to 45, and they start with this thing way over here and wonder why it takes, you know, 2/3 of a block of wood to get down to the center. So we're going to start here. And we're trying to just bring all that to a nice pointed tip right there. And the wood we're using is some scraps of maple I had, and it really makes a nice top. I mean, it's to a point here where you don't even have to sand it down. I mean, you can color it from there if you want to. Take a little spindle gouge. You gotta be careful how you put this in here. You gotta get it passed over the 90 degree. If you go in here or above, it's gonna start catching here on the back end of the flute, and it's gonna do one of the famous run backs because you don't have point contact. So we'll try to do this and get it right. If it runs back, you can sit there and say, yeah, that's right, you did mention that. I'm going to come in there, and I'm going to move it down here. And then if you've got a young wannabe wood turner, you know, let them do the coloring on it. I can remember the oldest of the two who can now turn these things by himself, and he'll probably be out at the fairgrounds doing them with us. But when he would sit there and take the pens and he'd study and he'd do all this coloring down there, and it was a lot of fun watching him do it. It's a good way to get kids interested too. And we'll just put a little texture on there with this, I think it's an elf tool or whatever. I forget the name of this dumb thing. I've had it for, I don't know, 15 years, ever since I started wood turning. And then I do the color with these little Tom Brown. And you can go to, you know, you can buy them as a kit through Craft Supply and Packard and that stuff. Or go to Michael's, because they usually have them, you know, 30% off, or buy 3 and get 1 free and those kind of things. And they got a whole lot more variety of colors in there. And we'll do a little green and, where's my yellow? Oh, there it is.
But I noticed out there that the kids weren't as fascinated with the turning as they were with the coloring.
Yeah, the kids love the coloring. They will pick the colored ones out of the bowl before anything else.
Because you just touch it and it creates a
Yeah,
ring.
yep, you just touch the thing, and I think that was Ryan's big attraction. He could do, you know, a little ring here and then a ring there, and then bring it up and do just ring. And he would sit there, and every one I did, we had him at the Earth Day, and he was showing the other kids how to color them. They were paying more attention to him with the coloring at the table over there than they were to Brian and Mark and Jeff and the people that were, Kevin and the people that were turning the stupid things. But just a little touch. Some of the softer woods can make, but no, I use all kinds of scraps. This just happened to be maple. I've made, I think this little one here is out of that Filipino mahogany that Luan, looks like it. It's a mahogany of some kind. So anything you've got sitting around, you know, as long as it's not full of cracks and everything else.
Also, it shouldn't have hardwood and sapwood because it's unbalanced.
Yeah, it's unbalanced. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Carl, because it is a good point. Yeah, your hardwood's going to be,
Straight grain.
yeah, and straight grain through the center of it. Make sure you are, you know, the grain is running this way. If it runs this way, it's going to break in half. And I guarantee you that the top will, the stem, when we get around to doing that, is going to snap off because you're going to get that down thin. It's got to be running up through the stem. But
One thing I will say is the harder the wood, the sharper that point is, the better it's going.
yeah,
You start drilling and putting a little BB in there.
but you know, for the fair, we use anything we can find.
There's another, my neighbors been cutting down their mango trees, so I've been collecting.
Yeah, we use anything. Brian goes dumpster diving. There's a stone importer. They import the granite and that stuff down for countertops down by, and he goes into their dumpster and he pulls it out, and it's got nail holes in it, and it's got, you know, bark inclusions and everything else. And he just runs it through a table saw after he gets the nails out of it, chops it up. And then when we're out at the fair, we'll pull a handful of them out, and about every 1 out of 10 we end up throwing in the garbage can because it's got cracks or splits or, you know.
That stuff you pull is still, it's wet.
Yeah, it's wet, and it works for tops. And then what I do here, you know, a lot of guys, when I first started making these things, would use a longer block. They'd run this end here, and then they'd do the top in between the front and the back. And it's very hard to get in there and do all the turning. And then I forget who showed me this, but I noticed that Brian was doing it too. Put a little tenon on it. Come up here, put a little tenon on it. And then you can just take this and flip it around. If you're going to do a lot of them, I would advise, hopefully you would go out and get a Vicmark chuck. I've got nothing against the one-way chucks, but they don't close down nearly as narrow. The Vicmark will go down to 1.25 inches. For the same size, the 3 or 3.5 inch Talon chuck, which is the one-way, it will only go down to 1 5/8. So that 3/8 of an inch makes a big difference when you're working with these little teeny tiny pieces of wood. And we just bring this in here. And put it in. Huh? It's the 100. It's the smallest of the Vicmarks. The 120 is the big 5-inch, and then they make a bigger one. They make a huge monster chuck that's like 7 inches in diameter.
4-inch chuck.
Hmm?
You told me to get a 4-inch?
Well, it's the same as these. I think it's technically 3.5 inches, and
That's a 4-inch with the optional 5-inch jaws.
Yeah, well, I do. I've got the optional jaws for this, and you can, by putting the bigger full size, the number 4 jaws on it, this has got the number 2 on it, you can put a 3.5 or a 4-inch tenon on the back of something. As far as chucks go, if you start getting this thing expanded out as far as it's going to go, you lose a lot of the gripping strength because it only starts gripping. You use some of the center in here, and it makes a difference. And then I'll take get those high-priced pens out of there. And I just take this and, again, a peeling cut. If you don't learn any other cut with this skew, learn to do this peeling cut on a small piece of wood like this. It really saves time and is, it's really nice. If you've never learned to turn a bead, at least you can do this. You could use a Badan for that. You could use a bowl gouge, a spindle gouge. You could use anything you want. I just find if I'm out there and I'm cranking tops out, the less tools I've got to switch out and pick up, the quicker it goes. Brian actually cuts the point with the skew. So, I don't. But and then we'll take this down. Fairly close. And there's my stem. I can do a planing cut over here now. And this is an easy cut to do with the skew. Where people have the most difficulty with this tool is trying to roll beads and do things like that, because if you lose the contact with the point, you get the infamous run back up the piece of wood. And the next two, I can tell you what the next 2 words will be out of your mouth. Oh, shucks, yeah. But it's a very shortened version of shucks. All right, we've got some tear out there, so we're going to take a spindle gouge. I mean, you could do it with and we're going to clean this up here and get it looking a little better than that. Start with the tool straight up. Over here, a little past 90. And I can come straight in on this. Ooh, I thought I'd sharpen this thing. You have to do that with this. I thought I'd sharpen this one before I came out here, but it's not very sharp. So we'll cheat. That works a whole lot better. Okay, and from here, again, you can see how that one cut there just cleaned up all that tear out that was in there, and it just makes it look that much more attractive. Again, it doesn't take that long to do. And then down here, you know, I'm going to actually clean that up with a skew.
Talk about the shape of the part you're making right now.
Yeah, you can do most anything you want. I mean, you know, if we're,
Find if you put a bigger ball on the end.
you can do a bigger ball on the end.
Work. Use the straighters you have, it's much easier to spin.
Yeah. I mean, if you, when we're got 30 kids standing in front of us, you know, we'll do it this way. We'll put a little ball back here and run a straight line down through it, something that's short, sweet, and simple. If you got a little more time, you can do a little fancier, and that'll still spin quite well.
Good practice for your codes and beads.
It's good practice. Yeah, I mean, these things are great practice. Let's see if I can do a little bead here with this. And we'll start here, and it's just a roll from one the You know, note to self, next time you do this thing, make sure you sharpen the tool before you come. And now I can just start here. And that's not cutting at all, so we'll go back to my, yeah. You know, just roll a little bead on the end here. And then just come in and do a nice little and we can roll this here. And get that out. And that's basically about all you have to do with them.
Make it look so easy.
then you can, you can color it, you can do whatever you want to do to the end down there. I have a tendency to flip my wrist when I'm trying to spin these things and they go skidding across, so I'm trying not to do it or they'll end up on the floor.
Then the only problem is you have the kids who want to fight over the one you just made. They watch the.
Oh yeah. They'll take the one,
Yeah. They don't want the one down the bowl. They want the one you.
the one you just made. And I think it was you that was turning last year or the year before at the fair, and the woman came up and you handed the kid the little, he was probably 2 or 3 years old, and he immediately, like every 2-year-old does, sticks the thing in his mouth. And Jeff made a comment to his mother about him having the top in his mouth, and it was made out of maple, so it wasn't going to hurt him any. And she looks back at Jeff and says, "Oh, that was nothing. He was out in the chicken coop with me this morning kissing the chickens." So, every once in a while, something like that happens out there, and it's hysterical. The little girl that told Brian to keep practicing, maybe you'll get better. And
That stunned him when she said that to him.
huh?
That stunned him when she said
Yeah.
He was like, oh. The rest of us are like,
Mark was there. She'd come up, the whole story went, she'd come up and she was sitting on her dad's knee and she didn't say a word. And Brian turned a couple of tops and they walked away and went over and he gave her one and they went over to the firehouse. And she comes back over after they went through the firehouse and everything that was over there, and she completely different personality changed. She was little Miss Chatty Cathy. And she started wanting to play with Brian. Well, what hand is the top in? And, so she'd put it behind her back, and you could see where she was putting it down her belt, hold her hands out, and Brian would say that one, and she'd open up and it wasn't there. What hand? And it went on 2 or 3 times. Finally, after about the 3rd time they were doing it, and what the young lady didn't realize is her dad snuck up behind her and pulled the top out of the back of her belt back there. And she goes back and realizes, and this look of sheer panic is on her face. And she starts doing the where'd it go type of thing. And finally Dad called her, and I forget her name, but and holds the top up, and she gets mad at her dad. And it was hysterical. It really was. It was a lot of fun. So as she's leaving, she turns to Brian and says, "Well, keep practicing. Maybe you'll get better." And that was. All right, let's do a little something different here. And we'll attempt to do one of these flip tops.
That was your grandson you talked about coloring the top?
Yeah, that was Ryan, the oldest one.
Yeah, I made a maple top once, and I drew lines from the center out to the edge, yellow and blue all the way around. And what do you get when you mix yellow and blue together?
You get green, yeah.
Yeah, so then when you spun the top and it turned green. When I slowed down, you saw the yellow and blue.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just the yellow and blue stripes coming out, and as you spin it, it would look green. That's an excellent idea. So I'm going to yank this thing off of here.
while he's breaking it out, if you guys haven't come out to the fair and turn these, I remember the first time I went out, I was intimidated, because new turners coming out here doing this. You get really good really fast. Nobody cares if you suck. Come out and enjoy some time. And you will, it's rare that you get these opportunities where you have very experienced turners sitting next to you, helping you improve, one-on-one where you.
Oh, this is flat here, yeah.
I mean, you get in,
Yeah,
you can come in for 4 hours, 8 hours, you can sit there for 12. I usually don't. But, it's a good time, it's fun. There is like that point in time when you get a rush, everybody's running through and you can't get your match. But then there's times when you're like, let's just see what's in the shop and grab something and do a little bowl or a little box. stuff like
Yeah, this is just more than I think it's about a 1 inch by 1 inch by 2 1/4. Put it in the truck.
Is that where Brian is today?
Brian's up in Michigan. He got invited, I don't know if it was, he's got a bunch of family up there. I don't know if it was a brother or a cousin or something that invited it up there, and they were gonna be doing a little deer hunting up there, so. All right. What we'll attempt to do, and it's been a while since I've done one, is make one of these things. Again, you know, you gotta have the little bit of a curve up on the top here. And it may be kind of difficult to do with that spindle gouge being so damn dull that it doesn't cut butter. You know, you gotta have a complete round surface back here. Did you get this one to actually flip, Lee?
Yeah.
Okay.
It worked better until the cat chewed on the stem, but it does flip over.
Oh, I've got a dog that chewed up one of mine real well, put big teeth marks in it that I had to decorate all around again to, okay.
And I have the directions for that on the computer.
Okay.
If anybody wants it, we can send it out to the folks.
Yeah, send it over and I'll send it up there.
Okay.
So anyway, we're gonna start getting this thing round. Again, we're turning about half speed, about 1400. And you can hear the wood actually starting to get round. And I may just take that down a little more. And that's looking better. All right. Okay, so my stem will go from here to about there. My top will be from there to about there. And this back here will be waist. Yeah, we'll use this one. This is one of the Carter and Sons skews. Love the skew, hate the handle. These aluminum handles are really, really heavy. It will fit in my half-inch, you know, what I use for my 3/8 bull gouge, which are this is half-inch diameter shank here. And we may have to clean this up a little bit when we get it down there, but we're gonna get it down pretty close to size.
Is it good to make it rounded on the very end?
Hmm?
When it flips, is it good to make it rounded rather than
Then
flat
flat.
at the end?
I put a little bit of a chamfer on this on the end here. It doesn't have to be totally round, but does work a little better if you've got a little bit of a okay, we probably need to take it down and get it a little thinner. Okay, and that's probably about perfect as far as the diameter goes. Start back here. Since I'm tool deficient, we'll put a little bit of a V-cut in here. Big old heavy thing is a pain in the derriere. I'm going to roll this here with the skew. And that's starting to get there. And then we'll just put a little bit of a again, a spindle gouge would probably be my choice of tools. But that one is so dull, it doesn't want to cut butter, so I'm using the skew to... And that doesn't have to be extremely curved there. And now if I don't lose my edge, I'll be in great shape. And we get it around there. Oops. Yep, that's going to be my next step before I get it too thin on here. And I'm going to come in and hollow out this inside a little bit.
Can you pass around the one so we can see it?
Yeah. Here, pass all these around. And now what we're going to do is take a little 1/8 inch parting tool, and we're just going to come, I got to drop my tool rest down a little bit, but we're going to come in here and we're going to hollow out a little bit of this in here, probably about 1/3 of the way. If you go too far, they get too light in the back end of them and they won't flip. And I'm proud, oh, you can see it in the camera, okay.
Is that a necessary evil for it to work properly?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Lee said, it will not flip if it's,
It'll be too heavy in the bottom.
yep.
Have to lighten up the bottom part.
You gotta do it exactly right.
Yeah, these things you've got to be very precise on, like Lee just mentioned. If you don't do them exactly right, it's not going to work.
How deep did you go?
I've gone maybe about 1/3 of the way. I'm probably going to go a little bit deeper, down to about 1/2.
The directions I have, they give you a diameter for, and specs for every part of it. One guy in line is, he tried to make it, and, he said, not going to work. He showed it to me, and I said, well, this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome. So it's not going to work.
That's probably pretty close right there. I'm probably a little more than 1/3 of the way in there. And I think what I'm going to do is shorten this stem up a little bit here right now too. That's a little bit long. If they get too long, the stem gets too long, it will not flip and turn over. And a good way of testing that is to take it and put it on the table, take the stem, put it down, and it should rock back and forth if you let go of the stem there. And I have a feeling this one, if we put it down there and tilted it over, is going to stay tilted and not come back up the straight.
Once it's done, it's hard to put it back on the lathe.
Yeah, that's why I use my drill chuck, because this little stem will go in the drill chuck with the number 2 Morse tape around the drill chuck. Works really nice. We'll probably get into that here in a minute. Again, drop the tool rest. And that's probably a more acceptable length for that stem. And I'll put a little chamfer on it like that. And now what we gotta do is get this thing hacked off back here. Alrighty. And then I'm just going to cut this off with the parting tool, where I put that. All right. Let's get rid of this. Now this is nothing more than a drill chuck with a number 2 Morse taper on the stem. I forget where I got it. And if I don't go too heavy-handed with it, it'll not leave a whole lot of marks.
Have to be careful that it doesn't come loose from the,
Yeah.
sometimes they have a drawer rod.
Mm-hmm. And now, oh shit, what am I going to use? That thing's so dull. Yeah, I could use that. I'm going to get rid of a lot of this with this gouge here, so I can just start here. And start getting rid of it. And that's way too pointed there, so I can and it's starting to loosen up, so we're gonna hold everything and retighten. You could probably hear it when it started getting loose in here, and you know, sometimes these, in addition to these, work great in the shop. Okay, be that way.
You know, you may have some dust in the,
Yeah, it may be dirty, who knows? We'll try it again here and see. That's better.
You're not going for a point, you're going around it.
Yeah, I'm going straight for, you know, you don't want a point, you want it to be perfectly round, or as perfect as you can get it.
Well, the directions say the bottom, flatten that out just ever so slightly. Don't have it flat, but make it a wider curve than you have the side.
Okay.
I noticed the one you had, which you spun on the table, it's totally round, so.
Mm-hmm.
If it works, it works.
Oh, come on. And I know I didn't bring any sandpaper, but normally I would sand, there's a little bit of a nub right there. Let me see if I can get rid of that.
It's so delicate work.
Yeah, it's gotta be, like Lee and I have said, to do these things, you've gotta be dead on. That's a little better. Okay. Well, let's see if it flips from, if you hold the stem down, does it come back up? Oops, and the answer is no, so we got a problem. Close, but it should be.
Just test it out, see if it works.
Yeah, we'll try it and see. No, it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna. Yeah, it did a little bit. It tried, so it's close, yeah. Alrighty, normally what I would do if I had a sharp spindle gouge, it would help greatly, but but that's the whole gist of it. If you can, put them back in the chuck if you're careful and kind of rejigger them. You don't have to come down real tight on it. You can put it back in the drill chuck and do it that way, but they're a lot of fun, and again, the kids really enjoy them.
What is the answer to fix that one? The stem is too long?
I think the stem is probably haven't gone quite deep enough inside here to get it to, it's trying to come back up, and it's not, and I think it's got a little bit of a dead spot where it's not perfectly round right here. That would be my, and it may be the stem is a little bit too short too. So again, trial and error, and it's,
Should it be more or less a part of a sphere?
Yeah, it would probably help. I mean, you really want it to be a continuous curve here, so part of a sphere. I do have a couple of lines in here. If I had some sandpaper, I'd sand them out and it would probably work better, and we'd go from there. All right.
Can you pass that around?
Yeah. All right, that's pretty much it. Yay.
Thank you.
We're gonna
All right,
take,
we'll do a quick cleanup and we'll get, have our meeting.
I'm gonna put these on the table over here so the kids can play
okay,
with them.
all right.
Thanks, Dad.